So, I
Indeed,
mean, we
indeed.
did bring up a former Chicago head coach. And speaking of Chicago, well, they won the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, didn't they?
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Uh, Now, I love how people are going, oh, this shit's rigged. This shit's rigged. I'm like, dude, they finished second to last. Like, it would have been rigged if, like, Calgary came out of nowhere, even though I don't think they were capable of getting the first overall pick. But it would have been, I think Vancouver finished 11th. Like, they would have been the last possible team to snab Bedard. Like that would have been fixed in my mind if a team jumped 10 spots. But I mean, Chicago, they jumped one spot to get the number one overall pick. The only two teams that changed place were, well, I mean, technically, wait, did Chicago jump three or two? I mean,
I believe they
excuse me,
jumped.
one or two.
I believe they jumped two.
Yeah, because I
Was
know
it
Columbus, they
was
lost
it
a spot.
Columbus, San Jose, and Anaheim, or was San Jose a little bit? Um, Let me.
You think this would be fresh in my mind after it just happened like 2 days ago, or excuse me, like 4 days ago at this point.
It
So
was Chicago was third with
yeah,
11
so
and a half percent.
Chicago jumped two spots and they were the only team to jump. So with considering with what's happened in the draft lottery the last couple years, this is arguably the least amount of rigged it's been.
Yeah,
If you want to go that route. Because remember the year that Colorado finished dead last, had one of the worst seasons of all time, and ended
mm-hmm.
up getting the fourth overall pick.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I
Three
remember.
teams jumped them, and I remember I was not a fan at the time, but looking at what's happened since, I'm glad they didn't win the draft lottery that year.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, as far as Chicago is concerned, Shades, I think for me, I think a couple of things go into why people are calling it rigged. I don't think it's rigged. I mean, was I a little upset? Yeah, but do I think it's rigged? No. Um, the thing with me with the Blackhawks is the market. And the Chicago Blackhawks have been one of the most popular and successful teams for a very long time now. And they came off a dynasty run with where they capitalized off selecting Patrick Kane number one overall in 2007 and won three Stanley Cups. And probably outside of Tampa Bay, the last dynasty that we've seen in the NHL, right up there with the Islanders of the 80s. And now, just after a few years at the bottom of the league, I think it's what, been 2 years at the bottom of the league, 3 years at the bottom of the league now, they get a generational talent who might be better than Connor McDavid,
Which is a scary thought.
which is a scary thought. So for me, I think it comes down to why people think it's rigged comes down to three things: the market, the success that the Blackhawks have had, and the player that they are going to be selecting. Same thing happened in the NBA with Victor Wembanyama, and the San Antonio Spurs. Same thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy for the Blackhawks and their fans, I guess. But it really stinks. I really would have liked to see Anaheim or Columbus win this draft lottery. I think it would have made a lot more sense. And for Columbus, I mean, you're not going to get your generational talent. If it's not going to be now, when is it going to be? So really, really feel bad for them for sure.
Well, I mean, the thing that Columbus has going for them, this is a very deep draft, especially I mean, look, Connor Bedard is a generational prospect, but I mean, the fact that you still have third overall pick in a draft class this stacked at the top, you're still going to get a very good player.
Yeah, and just going through the mock drafts because of course it's mock draft season now, right? I think Bedard is the consensus number one. You got Fantilli, who's playing college hockey at Michigan. He's probably going to go number two, and then after that, you got Will Smith. I think is one of the big time prospects who put up tons of points in juniors. Um,
Just don't let Chris Rock slap him.
Very good. And Matvey Michkov as well, who is
Yeah.
a divisive figure over in the KHL. But I concur 100%. This is a very, very deep draft. And even if the Blue Jackets didn't get Connor Bedard, they're going to get a very good player. But for me, Shades, I cannot stress enough how good Connor Bedard is going to be. Like, he's not as explosive as Connor McDavid. I think Connor McDavid is probably the most explosive player we will ever see. Just his
Maybe.
ability to go from stop to start and get put on the Jets. But for Bedard, for me, he just reminds me of a player who can knife through the defense, but has the shot of Alexander Ovechkin. Like that good of a shot. And it shouldn't get lost that the day after the Chicago Blackhawks got the number one overall pick, their sales staff sold $1.9 million in season ticket sales for next season. And there are some people that I work with that actually have Blackhawks season tickets, and they are canceling season tickets for Blackhawks fans that have a credit card outside of Chicago. Maybe not season tickets, but I think that it's like a partial plan. But still, like, that's how much the demand is being raised by the news that this one player is going to join the Blackhawks organization. Just to put it in perspective.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because for that to happen for a hockey prospect says a lot.
Oh yes, 100%. I would be very interested to see what happened when, the Oilers drafted McDavid, because you never really know, right? I'm sure there was some excitement from Ranger. I mean, I'm a Rangers fan. I mean, there was a ton of excitement when we selected Lafreniere, but I didn't really run to the season ticket offices and say, oh my gosh, I need season tickets right now because Alexi Lafreniere is a Ranger, but Connor Bedard and generational talents like Connor McDavid, can kind of change that a little bit. So again, I'm happy for Blackhawks fans. They've had an abysmal season. Now maybe Jonathan Toews comes back. Now maybe Patrick Kane comes back, and they try to create something fun for the fans next year. So
Yeah, but
get a goalie too, Chicago. Come on.
yeah, Blackhawks need a lot of work, but getting Bedard is going to be a major step in the right direction.
Yes, it is 100%.